Hello and welcome to Sharpe's How I Would Do Random Battles. In this video I'm going to be talking a little bit about what I think some of the current shortcomings of random battles are in World of Warships, and if it was up to me, how I'd improve on them. I've got to stress that what follows are simply my opinions, in the hope that they provide food for thought to others and ideas to improve the game for us all. So firstly, in terms of divisions, I think the term itself is quite poorly defined in terms of naval formations, so I personally recommend this be changed to squadron, which I think is a far more recognizable naval term for smaller subdivisions for a fleet. And personally I just think it sounds better than division. And secondly, on this topic, regarding size, I think they should be increased from a maximum of 3 to a maximum of 4, but have the following restrictions. All players must be of the same tier as the commander of the squadron. This would eliminate the danger of being up-tiered too high and having a poor gaming experience. And then for the actual squadrons themselves, I think max 1 carrier, and then max 2 of each of the other classes. Battleships, cruisers and destroyers can only have 2 of each in a squadron, potentially. Now, I say that because that would eliminate some occurrences that you have where you've got all 3 in a division of battleships or 3 destroyers, and that can, on many occasions in random battles, turn out to be either overpowered or underpowered, depending on the skill of the players. And I think expanding these to be squadrons of 4 would allow for more people to get together in randoms, while also being more typical of small naval formations, both in terms of size and composition. Now, obviously another very important and broad area of random battles that I'm going to cover under queuing deals with anything from player numbers and matchmaking to ship restrictions and waiting times. Now, the current format is 12v12, and well, that's kind of okay. I think a format of 16v16 would be much better. I also find it a bit disappointing that over a decade ago, many games that also relied on physics engines or calcs were able to handle 16v16 servers on modems and ADSL, which we have exceeded a great deal by now, so there's no real excuse for not being able to do 16v16. And then, concerning how squadrons would be implemented, it would have to be a maximum of 3 per team, and any squadrons would have to be kind of mirrored on the other side. So you couldn't have 1 squadron on one team and 2 or 3 squadrons on the other. Now, that brings us on to matchmaking. I think this really needs to change from plus or minus 2 tiers to plus or minus 1 tier. Now, whilst the current range is not actually that bad in reality, it is perceived to be bad. And facing an enemy 2 tiers higher, or even 3 if you're in currently a multi-tier division, then it seems to be a cause for complaint within a fair proportion of the player base. But with the proposed restriction of only same tiers in squadrons and plus or minus 1 tier in matchmaking, I think it would go a long way to improve the perception of tier balance, and in reality teams would actually be a lot more balanced, competing with each other as well. Now, probably the most contentious of my suggestions in this area is actually putting a minimum and maximum number of each ship type in place. And I think that something like this really needs to be done for the sake of balance and to actually improve overall gameplay. With this in mind, and to promote more balanced and diverse gameplay overall, I propose the following restrictions per fleet. Carriers, minimum 1, maximum 2. Battleships, minimum 4, maximum 8. Cruisers, minimum 4, maximum 8. Destroyers, minimum 2, maximum 4. Now what this means is that there are the same number of core 11 ships in any team to provide a more stable starting point for balance, and then the variety in overall fleet composition is provided by the final 5. I think with that in place there would be a lot more consistency and a lot less kind of useless loadouts. And finally, within the kind of broad topic of queuing, I think there needs to be a maximum wait time that is a lot shorter at the moment for random battles, and it needs to be more around kind of the 1 minute mark, or maybe the 2 minute mark at a push. And if that time limit is reached, then bots should immediately be used to fill the gaps, and those bots should be completely stock and top tier for the battle they're being launched into. That way you keep gameplay going and you keep that element of balance, because you're not trying to force an awkward variety of human players into the same game. Now, the next major area I've looked at in random battles is the scoring. And firstly, I've got to preface this by saying that I think there should only be one battle type in random battles at the moment, and that's domination. Standard and Epicenter are largely disliked as formats currently and do very little to promote interesting or enjoyable gameplay. So personally, I just remove them for the time being and focus on making the domination format the best it can be. Now, the other concern is that the current bias in the scoring methodology does almost nothing to encourage players to actually play their ships either properly, a kind of main role, or well, or for teams to either actively or organically work together. So, to improve the quality of gameplay and help players learn the main role of ship types, both consciously and subconsciously, by rewarding behaviours appropriate to each more effectively, I propose a scoring methodology along the following lines. Now, I've come up with the numbers for this methodology based on adjusting the rewards proportionally by ship type versus their general role, what their general role in any battle should be. Something I think World of Warships has lost sight of. And whilst these numbers may not be the best, hopefully they do serve to illustrate how much more effectively the game's scoring mechanics could be balanced to be much more rewarding to each type of ship playing their role effectively for the team, and also organically teaching players how to play their ships better. And just to summarise the table in general terms, obviously we need to keep rewards for capture and defence, but I think the percentage damage done to each class by each class should be tailored along the lines that I've suggested here, so that it kind of refocuses what particular ships should be using as their primary target. And then the main thing, the main important bit of this table, is the team play aspect at the bottom. And now we know all this stuff can be tracked because it's actually in the team play section of the score sheet currently, but it doesn't seem to actually be rewarding those behaviors. And without going into too many specifics on those, you can see in general, you're encouraging destroyers to kill or to spot other warships, and to be providing smoke cover and doing spotting for friendly warships. And you're encouraging cruisers to be shredding planes and providing defensive spotting for aircraft and incoming torpedoes. And then battleships are the biggest change, actually rewarding battleships significantly for tanking damage, and that's the potential damage number. So this is the amount of incoming fire on a battleship. At the moment, far too many battleships play the game of sitting at maximum range, sailing to the edges of the map, taking no damage while watching their entire team get wiped out. Now hopefully, if you rewarded battleships for actually using their massive hit point pools to soak some damage, or at least be a main target, you'd actually encourage battleship players to improve their play and play more in that role, because it's more rewarding to play in that way. And then carriers obviously being more rewarded for spotting enemy ships, spotting enemy aircraft, and destroying enemy aircraft. Because at the moment, CVs have got a bit of a bum deal in that they can't really get rewarded unless they damage or kill stuff, which means that CVs tend to take strike loadouts if they're US, providing no air superiority for their team, and I think that's not a great balance. But I encourage everyone to take a look at those numbers, have a think about them, maybe suggest some alternative or some additions. Those are just there as a starter for 10. So, in summary, I think that if the game incorporated all the suggestions I've made in this video, the quality of random battles could be improved a great deal, and players' enjoyment of the game would similarly increase vastly. As it is currently, I personally feel that random battles are becoming less enjoyable and more frustrating due to really an inherent lack of teamwork, with player bias leaning towards one type of ship, which is clearly battleships at the moment, and not playing their ships according to the main role or roles, as the game currently provides no incentive for them to do so. But rather, people are encouraged to play selfishly for themselves because that's what rewarded. And I think this ideology, this behavior needs to change. So, I hope you've enjoyed my video on how I would do random battles if it was up to me. Please feel free to have a chat in the comments below, and I'll see you on the fair seas. Good luck and good hunting.